Hey, how's it going? So last vlog we were in Sargeras National Park. We're now in Collosal Cave Park. So we're gonna change our clothes because it's gonna get cold, right? And we're gonna head in. This is gonna be fun. I'm excited. So it's saying that there's a gate. Looks like we're about to get to Collosal Cave Mountain Park right now. Here's the entrance. There's that gate there, dog mount. They close at 4, so we got a little bit of time, I think. It's about 1:30. All right, all dressed and ready to go. Got my giant 7,000 lumens lamp, flashlight, and Hellcat. Of course, gotta have a Hellcat, right? Welcome. No smoking beyond this point. Didn't plan on it, bud. Did not plan on it. Beware. Beware, do not tempt thieves. Do not leave valuables in your car. That must be what, there's a sheriff over there. Unfortunate world we live in. This is called Collosal Cave. Tucson, Arizona.
Then we'll go over the cave rules real quick and head in. So all I need you to do is just touch your toe to the ground. Tyler will start from that side and I'll start from this side. Damage the rocks and formations, and they won't grow crystals anymore if they get wet. With that being said, you're going to hear me contradict myself a few times down there. That's because when they put these walkways and railings in the cave 90 years ago, they didn't know you weren't supposed to touch caves. So there's a couple areas where there's gaps in the railing, and some of the rocks in those gaps have been touched for the last 100 years. You'll hear me say, hey, there's no railing here, but you can use this rock on your left or right. You take one too if you want. Last of all, for the rules, everybody, take all the pictures you want. Just turn off the flash on your phone or camera. That's in case we encounter bats or wildlife down there. Yeah, that bright flash will startle or temporarily blind them. Then last of all, before we head in, the tour itself, it's about 363 stairs, close to a half-mile loop. We're going to do that over an hour, but if we walk in, we all got to be able to walk out. That does not mean you have to do the whole route, though. Say we get down there a ways and you're like, now that I'm in here, I've realized that I don't like caves and I don't want to do the tour anymore. It's okay. Just let me know. I have a whole phone system down there. I'll make a call. I'll get one of the other guides down there and they'll escort you out. Just don't turn around and leave when my back's turned because I'm going to think I lost you.
I'm going to leave this.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to carry it.
I get it. I get it.
Thank you very much.
You guys have any questions before we head down? Very cool. Yes, sir.
Okay, so no flashlights then at all, or?
No, if you want to use your flashlight, it's okay.
Okay.
But just when I'm trying to show people stuff with the flashlight,
Sure. Don't interrupt. I got you.
Yeah. If you need to use the flashlight to look at the stairs, you want to look at things around you, absolutely do.
Okay, cool.
All right, everybody, we're going to go in the entrance room. We're going to let our eyes adjust to the darkness, and I'm going to tell you some cool facts and history about this first room. Let's go check out this giant hole in the side of the mountain, folks.
Wonder how all the different caves are just different. I mean, this is already different. Smallest entrance.
I'll just have you folks stop right at the bottom of those stairs. Perfect. Alright. Long time, and they don't usually go deep into the cave because there's not really much to eat or do down here. And believe it or not, sometimes animals get lost in the cave and we have to escort them out. That's always fun. There are 3 animals that do use the cave as a home. We have a cricket that's a unique species to this cave. It's called an unidentified species because nobody has studied it enough to give it a real name. Wow. It does have legs a little bit more like a spider, so it can crawl on the rocks better. The big ones can be kind of creepy looking. But don't worry, folks, that cricket is also completely blind. It's just because without the lighting system in here, there's nothing to see in this place. We also have coatis that live in the cave, or people call them coatimundi. They're a relative of the raccoon. I always try and explain them to people. I think they look like if you mixed a badger and a raccoon together, and then you put a lemur's tail on its rear end. They are daytime and nighttime animals, so if I was a betting man, I would bet you most of them are probably at the campgrounds right now, going through the garbages and harassing the campers. They do have those little hands like a raccoon, which means they're constantly trying to get into stuff. Our Coatis have gotten into our margarita machine in our cafe 2 different times. It's like an old Slurpee machine where it has that rotating cylinder and you fill it up with booze the night before. We came to work in the morning and the Coatis had tipped the thing over. We had like 6 or 8 stumbling drunk Coatis on our terrace.
Oh boy.
It was a very interesting work day, I'll tell you that much about it. And then of course there's bats in here. There's 9 species of bats that use the cave. Once we turn the lights on in the morning, most of the bats go over to the east side of the cave, but our 2 most common species, they're called the Townsend's big-eared bat and the cave myotis. The Townsend's big-eared bat is the bigger of those 2. Its body is about the size of an adult's thumb. Its ears together can be very close to the size of its body, so it's definitely true to its name. And then the first humans we know of to use the cave were the Hohokam Native Americans from right around 900 all the way to 1450 AD. This room we're hanging out in is the room they were using the most. They would use it for seasonal shelter, storage, migration purposes. We also think offerings and ceremonies were happening in here. It was hard to piece together the history of the Hohokam in the cave because the first guy to discover the cave after them didn't own it. And when he got in here, he stole a bunch of the artifacts to decorate his new hotel. That guy was not very good for the cave, and I'll tell you more about him in the next room. But if you take a look at the ceiling right up there where my light is, can you see that staining on the rocks up there? That is old smoke staining from the Hohokam. It goes all the way out to the entrance. And that's because while they were hanging out in the cave around 1,000 years ago, they were having fires right down there where that cobweb-filled hole in a rock is. Last of all for this room, folks, we don't really think the Hohokam as a group explored much past about where I'm standing. That's for a bunch of reasons. One of the big ones is they really considered caves to be sacred. So being in a cave, it was more of a spiritual time than it was exploration time. We're going to head to the Crystal Forest next, folks. Cave doesn't usually smell. Named because of these thousands of calcite crystal stalactites hanging from the ceiling. Kind of makes it look like an upside down forest. The easiest way I know of to remember the name stalactite, well, they hang tight to the ceiling. And then the big formations right here and over there, these are called flowstone. And then the lower areas, they're called dripstone. The way the foreigner in the desert looking for a few of his lost cattle. But Solomon Lake did not own the cave. He owned a hotel and ranch about a mile away from here. He started using the cave to promote his new hotel, and it eventually became a package deal where you'd stay a night at his place, then Solomon Lake would show you this place, and after you were leaving, he would encourage people to break a stalactite, put it in their pocket, and take it home as a souvenir. And unfortunately, people were doing that for about 44 years. Last of all for this room, everybody, is this stalagmite. He is named Old Baldy. Around 146 years ago, when people started coming in here to explore, they would start rubbing Old Baldy's head for a little bit of good luck before they went deeper into the cave.
The question, you said we cannot do flash photography here?
No.
Oh, that's just smooth.
Very smooth, yeah.
Alright, folks, so this big giant stalactite that's hanging above my head right now, this one is named Fang. He's the largest stalactite we know of in the cave. Fang is pure calcite crystal and estimated to weigh around 4,000 pounds. So it's kind of like a 4-year-old elephant just hanging above me at the moment. Well, Fang got his name because he does an exceptional job of biting our guests and tour guides. So if you are over 5'6", as we go through this area, please watch out for him so you don't have to leave the cave with a new souvenir on your forehead.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You're okay.
I was looking up.
That's all right, and I got you before, so
Yeah.
it's not a problem.
Right next to me, then they're called cave bacon, and I'm pretty sure everybody can guess why it looks like a big old hunk of bacon. I'm also pretty sure it doesn't taste like bacon, but I've never licked it, so I can't tell you that 100%. Also, right above us, right here where I'm standing, there is a fault line that helped form the cave, right along there. And geologists estimate it was sometime around 25 million years ago, this giant piece of limestone going through here, it wedged itself into the fault line after an earthquake. Don't worry, it hasn't moved since. It is funny though, on some of my really big tours I'll say that, and you'll see a couple people like slowly go this way. Also, I told you just a tiny bit about the stalagmites and stalactites. Well, they grow when they're wet, kind of like an icicle in the winter, just much slower. Takes them about 100 years of being wet to get an average of about 1 cubic inch of crystal growth on them, and that is about it. Then over a very long time, sometimes stalagmites and stalactites will stalagmeet. When they do that, they're called a column. Also, right up here, you can see a bunch of flat ends from people breaking the crystals in the early days. It does bring me to the guy that pretty much saved the cave, and that's the reason we get to see it how it is today. His name is Frank Schmidt. Frank moved out here in 1918. He had no connection to the cave, but he ended up going on one of the early tours, and once he got down here and saw what was happening to this place, it bothered Frank, so he started saving his money. He had to save for 4 years, and in 1922, Frank bought the rights to the cave, and the first thing he did was protect it. Nobody could enter the cave now without a tour guide. Of course, the only tour guide was Frank, and his big business idea for the cave, if you gave Frank 25 cents, he would hand you a candle and a rope, and then you got to follow him around this place by candlelight. It was a much different tour back then because there was no floors, lights, or railings in here yet, and believe it or not, in the middle of this room, it V's down to nearly a 40-foot drop directly below us. So you can imagine, pretty difficult tour with just a candle and a rope. And then in 1929, the stock market crashed and the Depression was starting, and nobody was spending money on tours. Frank's out here struggling, trying to figure out ways to make money, including dabbling in a bit of moonshining, because his family had ended up moving out here with him. He got his answer for the cave, though, in 1933 when a group called the CCC formed, or the Civilian Conservation Corps. That was thousands of 18 to 24-year-old men, and their job was building roads, dams, and parks throughout the country trying to combat the Depression. Frank wanted him in here, but Frank had a problem. He was a private owner. CCC only worked on public property. So in 1934, Frank got into talks with the state of Arizona, and he gave the cave back to the state, absolutely free, but he had some conditions to the deal. Frank wanted to live on the property with his family, he wanted to be conservator of the cave, and he wanted to give tours until he physically could not do it anymore. Frank was giving tours through here till he was 84 years old. He passed away a year later, 85, in 1957. He absolutely loved this place, and Frank passed away in the gift shop, because the gift shop used to be his house. I will tell you, he comes by to visit, but he's not mean. He just checks in on the cave every once in a while. Now, Frank's most important condition was get those CCC workers in here immediately. They were in the cave for 4 years. From 34 to 38, 400 CCC workers hand-built every walkway, railing, building up top. They also built the first lighting system. You can imagine, it was a big deal to have a lit cave in the 30s. Also had a pretty big problem to it. It was just like the old Christmas lights in here. If one of the bulbs burnt out, the whole lighting system turned off. And if it happened in the middle of a tour, there was candles hidden everywhere. You just light candles for the guests, and your tour turned into a candlelight tour. I got one last thing for this room, folks. So you folks back there, come a little closer over this way. I want to make sure everyone can see this wall that my flashlight is on. Well, if you pretend back in the day you're on one of Frank's old tours and you're down here with a candle and a rope and you got a bit turned around, try and find your way out of this place with none of the walkways or lights is really confusing. So Frank would point out cave formations and they'll help guide you through here. This first one's called the Cave Witch. That's her scraggly hair right along there. She's got an eye, big wart on her cheek, really long nose. She's got one snaggletooth in her mouth because she's always chomping on that limestone biscuit. Now, she is kind of creepy looking, but don't worry, she is actually a sweetheart. The witch's nose points you towards the entrance to the cave. Way back in the day, she had helped quite a few confused cavers get out of here safely. She's also been stuck down here for a long time, and it gets lonely, so she needs buddies to keep her company. Her first friend is going to be Shadow the little kitty cat, the perfect witch companion to have down here. There's also an old cartoon character that hangs out in this room. If you look to the right, That fella right there is named Mr. Magoo. If you remember Mr. Magoo, he's a little old man that always gets lost because his vision is terrible. So if you follow his nose, you're going to go deeper into the cave to get lost just like him. And there's one last set of cartoon characters that are a bit more modern. If you look to the left over here, you can also see SpongeBob and Patrick hang out. And trust me, I already know how cheesy these are, but I love them. More of like it just points that the entrance is in that direction. Yeah. Yeah. And then, yeah, if you folks want to come up to the bar here, and then you folks can see perfect, then all the rest of you shuffle in here, that are pushing on each other, creating a bunch of heat and pressure. Well, there was a big event in North America called the Laramie Orogeny. It was the same thing that made the Rocky Mountains. Out here, it was kind of this giant upheaval. Well, that upheaval created the Rincon Mountain Range we are now walking around inside. The other thing it did is create a bunch of cracks. But with solution caves, you don't usually get the caves you see that have like giant, massive rooms inside. Instead, you get a giant cave that kind of looks like a big old hunk of Swiss cheese inside. There's holes and tunnels everywhere, and trust me on this one, none of it makes any sense. I have been lost down here a few times. We do know of over 39 miles to the cave, but we have no clue how big it really is because it's never been fully mapped. And I think it's kind of cool to have that much mystery to a place in this day and age. Yes, sir.
Have you gone exploring just on your own or with friends? Or
Yeah.
Spelunking?
Yes, sir.
You've done that in here?
Oh yeah, we used to give a tour called the Wild Cave Tour, and it was about 4 hours long, and it was me and another guide that would lead that. So we'd be taking people way deep into the cave and the areas you got to squeeze through and let the breath out of your lungs. But in doing that, I kind of needed to explore all the side areas too to make sure, in case anything happened, I kind of had a good mental map of where everything was in here. So back to the popcorn, folks. It was around 12,000 years ago, Arizona was turning into a desert and the cave started to dry out, and the water line in this room was roughly right up there where that big white line on the wall is.
Crazy.
As the cave dried out, all these walls that were soaked in that solution had to dry out, so they started pushing out those little lighter blotches on the wall. Those are tiny layers of growth that happened a few summers ago, and the reason this stuff is so significant to us, well, a lot of people for a long time had been saying the cave's probably dead, so you would be lucky to get a couple trickles of water in here. They never really expected whole rooms to start coming alive.
Wow.
I will tell you the humidity in this room was right around 100%, so it was very muggy. Do you guys want to see something way cooler than that?
Yeah.
Watch this. The cave walls will actually absorb the glow from the black light. So I get to come in here and draw all over the walls, and I don't get in trouble with work. And there's a little youngster on the tour. I'm going to write her initial on the wall. Her name starts with a G, so we'll do a big G on the wall.
Yeah.
Does anybody else want their initial on the wall? If you yell a letter out, I'll draw it. No? Okay, I can draw hearts and stars, but that's about as artistic as I've been able to get now. Here's where it gets really crazy. Does anybody have those little crystals we were passing around? Oh, yeah. Perfect, awesome. So it's not the popcorn that glows in here, it's the calcite crystal the popcorn's made out of. So the stalagmites and stalactites, as long as the bats haven't gone to the bathroom all over them, they'll hold a glow too. Calcite's what's called a naturally phosphorescent crystal, and all that really means is when this wavelength of light enters that crystal, it bounces around in there and it puts pressure on the electrons. It kind of turns the crystal into a very primitive battery. It'll absorb a certain amount of energy. Once you take the energy away, it's going to push it all out in the form of light. Pretty cool, huh? Here's where it gets even crazier. The calcite crystal that's down here is believed to be billions of crushed up heated seashell and coral reef from an ancient sea that was here about 300 million years ago.
Wow.
All right, guys, showed you my dorky side and I told you about our glowing rocks. I didn't tell you anything about movies yet. National Geographic, Sesame Street, and Disney did a movie in the cave in the 70s. But to be totally honest, most of the movies filmed in here are really bad, low-budget, scary movies, which I love. And my favorite from the cave is so bad it's good. It's called Night of the Lepus. It's about giant bunny rabbits that live down. You've seen it? It's so bad it's good, right? Yes. Pretty entertaining to watch. It is on Amazon to rent, but don't waste $2.99. Go on YouTube. There's plenty of clips. See how bad of a movie it is. Now, Sesame Street, they actually did their little episode in this room. I'll have you go right over there, sir, because I'm going to light up this rock. It was about Big Bird and Cookie Monster. They found a map of stolen cookies and magic birdseed that were lost in the cave. So Big Bird and Cookie Monster came down here to explore. And when Big Bird got into this room, the very first thing he noticed is this rock on my right. It's named the Cave T-Rex. You can see his eye, brow, nose, and then big crack for a mouth. Well, as soon as Big Bird saw him, he thought that rock was a real live T-Rex. And I think we can all agree, technically, Big Bird's a giant chicken, right? So he got super scared of him. Big Bird turned around, ran away from the T-Rex, and he ended up running directly through that wall. That is our Big Bird hole. That is a natural formation. Those are called keyholes. I guess when Big Bird supposedly busted through that wall, he discovered the cookies and birdseed on the other side. So the actual name of this room is not Movies and Popcorn. This is called the Grotto of Lost Treasures because of the little Sesame Street episode they did. Do you guys remember Viewmaster stories? There was a little circular thing you put in the little binoculars. It was a Viewmaster story back in the day. And then right behind me, this room's called the altar room. Ever since the CCC built that staircase, we've had weddings up there. We still have weddings in the cave. They aren't very popular because it's pretty difficult to keep a white dress white down here with all the dirt and dust. An outlaws display case who did use the cave as a hideout during the late 1800s.
It's such a great place to get married.
Yeah.
Four different train robberies. About 2 years ago, and we dated it. It's dated back in the 1880s. And it's just crazy how you sit down. And up next, you'll see the CCC display case. We kind of came down this hallway. Now we're going to go back down this one to a new level on the case. And then you come in here with a map, and you're like, there's supposed to be an entrance somewhere around here, but I don't know, 20 feet above me or 20 feet below me. So the CCC, they only modified roughly 3% of the walls to get people through here. They tried to keep the passageways as natural as possible. I went down there a couple of years ago because people were throwing like whatever. Dang, that one's bright.
Yeah, 7,000 lumens.
Wow. Flashlight. Okay, I'm kind of a flashlight dork.
Yeah.
I was a firefighter for about 20 years, so flashlights are a big thing when you're a fire. And like when I started out, it was those incandescent light bulbs. You know what I mean?
Right.
You could maybe see 5 feet in front of you.
Yeah.
By the time I left, like the flashlights are just amazing.
Oh, this thing's a monster.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Literally. It has like a 3-hour battery.
Does it get hot sometimes?
The top does, but
that looks like one of those ones you could burn through a piece of paper
it's pretty strong. It's pretty.
Nice.
Husky's the brand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a good brand, too. Come on in, everybody will scooch in. So, this is the Bandits and Outlaws story. Before I tell you, I always do a little disclaimer. Old West stories are like old pirate tales, right? There's truth to them. There's a ton you got to sort through. I did about 6 months of deep research in it. This is the truest I've been able to figure out for just one of them. It was right around 1884. There was a train robbery very close to here. It was called the Pantano Railway. The bandits ended up robbing the Wells Fargo car on that train, and they came back to the cave with all their loot because the bandits had already established the cave as a hideout. They had brought food and supplies down here earlier. So the bandits, from what I read, are just basically just hanging out in the cave, waiting for the dust to settle from their train robbery, and the cops hear about the cave being a hideout. So they got a posse together, and they started to approach the cave. As they were approaching, one of the bandits was standing guard at the front entrance. As soon as he saw the police coming over a hill, that bandit started shooting at him. The police decided, well, safest thing for them to do is try and starve the bandits out. So they ended up setting up camp outside the front entrance, and they're watching it and waiting and waiting and waiting. And it was sometime around the 8th day the police learned bandits escaped a different entrance a long time ago, because there are 5 entrances to the cave. Wow. And believe it or not, about 200 yards to the east of the front entrance we went in, there's a hole in the ground. It's named the Bandits Escape because of those guys. Here's where they really messed up, though. Once they escaped the cave, they all wandered their way to a bar in Wilcox, Arizona. They started getting super drunk, throwing money around and bragging about their train robbery, so eventually a cop showed up to the bar too. And then it turned into an old-fashioned Western shootout. 3 of the bandits were killed. The last bandit and leader of the group, his name was Pete Carver. He was put in jail up in Yuma Prison for 18 years. When Pete Carver was released from jail, Wells Fargo assigned a new investigator to start tracking him and see if he would come back here. Well, Pete Carver disappeared. There's no record of him after his jail time, and I'll tell you, a few years after he disappeared during the first mapping expedition, they found 3 Wells Fargo bags that were torn open and empty deep in the cave. That gold has never been found. If you ever go to the Arizona State History Museum by the U of A, they actually have one of the guns that was recovered from the front entrance, as well as one of those torn open money bags on display. I think it's cool that there's physical proof it actually happened. And from what I read, those bandits got somewhere between $68,000 and $75,000 in Spanish gold. Right now, that would be well over $1 million. So that's why Wells Fargo was trying to get their money back. They got a big haul out of them. Now, this room we're in is called the living room. The reason why is pretty simple. Frank used this as his living room in the summertime. He had his wife and children and later his tours rappelling down that hole over there about 3.5 stories. And with the help of a couple buddies, Frank got a couch down that hole and he had it sitting right over here. The reason he was doing all that stuff, well, the gift shop, and before that, a little wooden structure was his house. You can imagine being stuck up there in the middle of an Arizona summer. You got a 71-degree cave right out your front door. I'd imagine you were a pretty popular guy back then. I got one last thing to show you in here. Before I do, I want to tell you about the next room. It's called the Cathedral Room, and it's not very big. So rather than trying to jam people in there, I'll have about half of you come in. I'll show you guys everything. I'll have you move forward, and then I'll make sure you folks in the back get to see everything too. Also, there's no railing on the stairs over there. If you need to stabilize yourself, use the rocks on your left-hand side. And when you go up that next set of stairs, make sure to go up on the left. Hello, I promise that is a solid rock. It's how it hangs from the ceiling. It also has a pretty thick layer of crystal on it, and the crystal helps the rock reverberate. Wow, cool. Church or cathedral. And then they ended up naming those 4 stalagmites right along there the 4 praying nuns. The one on the right I can see pretty well. It does seem to get a lot less nunny the further left you go. And there's a gargoyle that hangs out in this room. So if you look up and to the left, our gargoyle's face is right there.
Oh, man.
He's got a big front paw right there. And then the gargoyle's wing goes up and does a little curl right at the end. And the last thing really has nothing to do with cathedrals. I just like to show it to people because it glows really cool. That is this hole off to my right up there.
Wow.
How beautiful is that?
Isn't that cool? So beautiful. Watch your right shoulder going up those stairs. There's a couple rocks that stick out. This is our last resort. Let's see if humans will help. This big formation right up here is called the Silent Waterfall. It's a bunch more of that flowstone and dripstone we were looking at earlier. There's a rock named Forehead Masher. He's pretty self-explanatory.
Must be forehead masher or smasher. Oh. Oh, someone lost their glasses.
Feel free to take a little rock or
Oh,
crystal
heck
if
yeah.
you want to snag
Absolutely.
one.
Ooh, that's a pretty one.
Just so you know, they are not from the cave. I'm not allowed to take rocks out of
sure.
here, but they are from the cave gift shop.
Thank
so,
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. There's still years of rope wear along the side of it.
wild.
There's even a little tiny hook that somebody embedded in there. And I'm going to be honest with you, I have no clue what that hook was for, but I hope they were not putting weight on it. It gets even better too, because if you take a look at this formation under a black light, you will notice there's all these little blue speckles all over the formation. That pretty blue is old candle wax.
Wow.
Apparently, there used to be a pretty good layer that was sitting right here that they peeled off, because what people were known to do is tie the ropes off here. They set their candles down around this area and then rappel on over, and that seems even safer, right? I do have a little bit of good news. There were 0 reported deaths on any of Frank's tours. I got one last cool thing to show everybody, and then we're going to head on out of here. Remember when I hit that rock and it made a cool sound? Believe it or not, the crystals will do it too. I only tap them gently with this because it's made out of rubber and it won't damage the crystals. If I use something metal like my flashlight, there's a chance you could crack the crystals. They're called cave bells. They sound hollow. They are solid crystal. It's the purity and shape of the crystal that allows them to reverberate. Some make great tones, some make no tones. It just depends. I'm going to ring a couple I really like as we head out of here. This is the last room, but you guys were absolutely awesome. Thank you for coming today, and thank you for laughing at some of the stupid jokes. I have a teenager. He doesn't laugh at anything anymore. Real quick, as we head out of here, we're going to go past Old Baldy again. Feel free to give his head a rub. Those stairs get really narrow like the ones we just went down, so I would sidestep down those. These stairs, everybody. In case y'all survived, good job! Watch your head on the left coming up here. You guys have a wonderful weekend. Yeah. Absolutely. You guys are awesome. Now that we're leaving, kind of a it's just me. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I got you.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
All right, that's it for the video, guys. I hope you guys liked it. If you liked it, tell me what you liked about it. How do you think this cave was compared to past caves we've gone to? It was cool. It was interesting. The guy was really good, and the stories are they fabricated? Why do all the caves have stories? It's interesting to me. Anyways, like, comment, subscribe if you're new. I appreciate you. God's blessings to you. Peace out. God bless.
Then some children were brought to him so that he might lay his hands on them and pray, and the disciples rebuked them. But Jesus said, "Let the children alone, and do not hinder them from coming to me, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." After laying his hands on them, he departed from there.